to Talk Birdie to Me with former world number 16 Nick O'Hearn and Tour Pro Mark Allen, live from Titleist and FootJoy headquarters. And thanks to our great partners, Titleist, they're the clear number one ball in golf. FootJoy are the number one shoe and glove in golf. Driving a BMW is like hitting a perfect shot, smooth, controlled and powerful. Ping, they'll help you play your best. The Golf Clearance Outlet beat everyone's prices. And Better, the fastest and easiest betting app in Australia. Now, from Titleist and FootJoy headquarters, it's time for Talk Birdie to Me.
G'day everybody, welcome to Talk Birdie to Me. This is a feedback podcast. Nick O'Hearn is still over in Vietnam. G'day Nicholas.
Hey Mark, going well?
Yeah, I'm going well. Now, before we get started, we have some tragic news. A great friend of this program, Stuart McPhee, if you've been listening to our podcast for a long time, you'd know him as our rules guy. I can tell you this, I got a phone call from Stuart McPhee about 7 weeks ago, and Stuart told me that he had been diagnosed with a stomach cancer. He knew about my history with my bowel cancer, and he was asking me a few questions about that. There'll be a lot of people who listen to the podcast who haven't heard the news. The PGA has told all of our members, but Stuart McPhee passed away not too long ago. It's my understanding that from diagnosis to death was 6 weeks. So it's one of those situations, Nick, where you and I have got to know Stuart McPhee, and Dan, you've got to know him as well. He was the nicest bloke in golf. It was as simple as that. There was no nicer bloke, no more genuine. He did so much for his home club, rules officials and rules nights and helping the ladies with their golf and their understanding of golf. And Nick, you knew him like I did, just a rock-solid human being.
Yeah, he certainly was. It's funny, I caught up with him, I think maybe a week or two before he got diagnosed, where he was away doing a golf rules seminar. I think it might have been up at Hope Island actually, or up in the Gold Coast somewhere. And I heard the news that he'd come back, so reached out, said, "Is everything okay?" And he said, "Well, I'm just going through some things." And then, okay, no problem. And I totally understood he didn't want to share anything. And then the news came out that, as I say, he passed, and it's like, oh my gosh. So hearts and best wishes and our thoughts and prayers go out to his family. As you said, one of the nicest guys ever. If you ask any of the players on tour, no one ever had a bad word to say about Stuart. Just an incredible human being, and an incredibly sad situation. So rest in peace, mate.
Yeah. Well, look, while we share our fond memory of Stuart, while we've got the opportunity, one of the great things that I'll never forget it, when we found out that he was the only rules official to get 100%. And I just remember how chuffed he was, and I was just so happy for him, and seeing him so happy that he was the one who got the 100%. He was our level 5
of rules officials, right?
Yeah, that's right. Level 5 rules official. Anyway, rest in peace, Stuart. You're a wonderful person. We loved you on the program, and all the best to the McPhee family.
Whenever we'd message him to say, "Would you mind coming on to clarify this?" He would say, "Yep." What time? Or always there. I remember having a couple of beers with Stuart at Box Hill. About 6 months ago, and he was just picking my brains on the pod, because he did a podcast as well, and he refused to let me pay for anything. He said, "No, I've got it all. It's all on. I've sorted it all." He's just the nicest guy.
You're right. We'd call him on the spot, and he'd answer the phone, and we'd put him straight on the podcast in the early days. And anyway, like I said, we wish you, the McPhee family, all the best.
Yep. It feels a little bit trite to move on to feedback after that, but
let's get going. That's what Stewie would have wanted.
He absolutely would have wanted that. Okay, this one from Michael Kelly. G'day, gents. I really enjoy the pod. I listen when I'm on the road for work, so I get occasionally behind, but I usually catch up because I've got a long commute at times. I love the Steve Williams interview the other week, which leads me to a question. During a tournament, how much responsibility is there between the caddy and the player regarding the bag contents and the cleaning of equipment? Regards, Michael.
Excellent question. Nick, I'll go first, because I think it's very personal. For a professional golfer, it's so personal what is actually in that golf bag, because, there were some things that I had to have in there, like just for instance, markers. there was a couple of times early in my career where I walked onto the first tee and I didn't have a marker. And I didn't have a marker in my bag. And I actually marked my ball in a professional tournament, Nick, with a tee, you know. And
oh, really? Oh, you're talking about a Sharpie or something. Okay.
yeah, like a 10-cent piece as my ball marker. So
okay.
I walked on the tee. I'm trying to think where it was. I think it was an Australian PGA. So I've walked on to the first green, and I'm playing. I think it was John Clifford. Yeah, how the hell did I remember that? So old Cliffo, like a bit of a star Cliffo. I mean, I think he finished second in Australian Opens and things like that. Here's this young kid marking a 2.5-foot putt with an orange tee.
The tee.
Right. So from that point onwards, I used to have quite a few 10-cent pieces in the golf bag because I was never going to be embarrassed like that again. I actually had to, I think Cliffo actually gave me a marker out of his bag. He was so horrified with what I did. Yeah. So there had to be plenty of markers, had to be plenty of tees. I wanted at least a dozen balls in the brand newies back in the old Bellata days because, you know, if you had a bad day in the bunkers or if you put a couple of smiley faces on or if you hit a couple out of bounds or whatever, you needed at least a dozen. But I was always pretty good to the caddy. So if the forecast was for clear skies, I would empty the bag for them. I would get the waterproofs out and I'd get the umbrella out and I'd take as much, you know, the cover, the rain cover, that would be out. I'd try and do my best for them. But I know that I used to know some players who would leave it in no matter, it was the sunniest day of all time. You know, we'd be playing the Vines in Perth and it would be 47 degrees playing golf. And I saw a bloke, I forgot, don't ask me who it was, but I saw him undo his bag where he used to keep his cold water. And all the waterproofs were in there. The umbrella was in there. Everything was in there. It was like it was never going to rain on this day and ever. Always felt bad for that. But, you know, look, I think it's a combination for me of Caddie, what he needed, and certainly just some of the must-haves I had to have.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think early on when Alana was caddying for me, funnily enough, usually everything was out of the bag to keep it as light as possible because, you know, we wanted to stay married. But I think, which was funnily enough, early on at that tournament, you know, where I really started doing well, the 97 Australian Open at Metropolitan Golf Club in Melbourne. I didn't realise what Melbourne weather was like, and we went out that day without an umbrella. Yeah. And as it turned out, after 7 holes, it is pouring down with rain, and I'm leading the Australian Open, and I haven't got an umbrella up. And people were saying, "Why did you know?" They actually thought I was so focused and locked in that you know it wasn't the rain wasn't even affecting me. But I was like, "No, I didn't actually have an umbrella." Forgot to look at the forecast, but luckily it turned into a thunderstorm, so they called it off, and we went back in the clubhouse and restocked, and we were away. But when Wilbur was on my bag. Yeah, it's similar to you. I had a dozen balls every time. The tees, the markers. Funnily enough, you talk about markers. Sorry, I was thinking you put a mark in the tee in the ball with the tee. But nowadays, I'll get on the green. I'll be like, oh, geez, that's right. I forgot to put a marker in the bag. You know, just social golf. But with Wilbur, it's funny that the umbrella and the waterproofs and that, I really had no say because if he thought it was going to be sunny, they were all coming out. Worst case, he would always probably leave an umbrella just in case, you know, if there's any 10% chance or something. But if it was a sunny day, no, he was taking it all out, and I'd be putting food and fruit and all that in the water bottles, and as soon as they were empty, they were out of the bag. So good luck to him.
Well, I want to ask you this because you played in Europe, and you obviously rains a hell of a lot in Europe, and in those situations, you need full waterproofs and a hat. Your caddy probably needs full waterproofs and a hat. The only time, you know, I played in Carnoustie, and it was a pretty good week. You know, it wasn't raining at all. So my caddy didn't, you know, had quite a light bag. But I can only imagine some of the weeks Wilbur must have had when it was raining, then not raining, and then raining, and then not raining, and then it was freezing cold. Your ping bag must have been just a suitcase that he was hauling around.
Yeah. So heavy. I mean, I picked it up a couple of times. I'm going, my goodness. But he just ripped it up onto the shoulder and away he went. But typically with him, if it was going to be a wettish day or it was off and on, he'd throw the waterproofs on straight away, so he didn't have to worry about taking them on and off. It's just me going back and forth, taking them on and off. I'd usually leave the bottoms on, and I never really liked playing with a top. I only really played with the waterproof top on if it was an absolute must.
Yeah.
I really didn't like playing with a top on. So, But it's funny what you accumulate over a round of golf in your bag. And at the end, it's just, especially when it's wet too, because they can soak and get really heavy, especially back in the day. Now the bags are much more water repellent. The towels, especially, you'd have like 4 towels in there and, 10 gloves and all this other stuff going on. It was crazy.
Yeah. I used to be really envious of the pros. Like I only had one waterproof top and it was full sleeves, but I was always envious of the pros who had 2 options in their bag. They had the long sleeve one, but then they also had the vest, the waterproof vest that would pop on a warm day as well. So, some of the blokes out there, they had everything. They were prepared for every type of weather condition, no matter what.
Michael went on to say, I played Stawell Golf Club off 6. My son works and plays at the mighty Southern Golf Club.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, keep up good work.
6, mate, he's a hell of a player. If he's down to 6, good on him.
Now, what do I go to next? All right, I'm going to go to this one. This is from Anonymous.
Okay.
Anonymous. Anonymous, for reasons which will become obvious.
Righto.
I need a favour, guys. Actually, this is more of a community service. 2 acquaintances of mine, who may be siblings, are playing a certain course later this month that rhymes with My Rest Point.
My Rest Point.
My Rest Point.
Cypress Point.
Cypress Point.
Righto.
Leaving aside my massive jealousy, one of these players, let's call him Dave, uses iron covers.
Ugh.
He's a single figure golfer in his 60s, but I believe he will not heed my advice to remove and not take the iron covers. So, Nick, I need this advice from you, or this help from you. Can you please give Dave some advice on how iron covers on Cypress Point would be received and what his caddy would view that as? And then there's a question from Mark, but we'll deal with this one first. So you go first, Nick.
Go on, Nick.
Iron covers at Cypress Point are illegal. They're not allowed on the golf course. Much like gambling and bushwood. But it's not going to be a great look at one of the most iconic golf courses in the world. I would highly recommend, travel with them on, keep them protected during the traveling process. However, once you hand them over to the caddy, they should be bare. The irons should be naked so that the caddy can just pull them out and hand the club to you. The last thing a caddy wants to do is have to take an iron cover off and put it back on each time. And if he does proceed to do that during the round, I would triple your tip, Dave.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, mate, the caddies at Cypress, funnily enough, are the best caddies, because there would be a line of people who want a caddy at Cypress Point. And the funny thing is, we don't get it here in Australia because it's really not part of our culture. But in America, at the very best golf courses, there is a fair dinkum caddy shack, and there are 30 or 40 caddies out the back ready to take your bag. But, all those caddies who do it for a living and the love of golf, they all want to be at Cypress Point.
Yeah.
So only the best caddies are at Cypress, and your brother will be laughed at.
Right.
It's as simple as that.
Okay.
Simple as that.
So, Dave, that's the advice from Nick and Mark. Now, this is the next question from Anonymous, and this one's for you, Mark. These guys are then headed to the Ryder Cup. Oh, my gosh. Wow.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Marco, hypothetical. Yes. As Mad Pies supporters,
yes,
if and when we make the grand final,
yes,
you have to choose Bethpage or the MCG. What do you select?
Well, if you haven't got KO on your phone and you could be at the Ryder Cup watching it, then you're crazy. But the question is, which one do you go to, Ryder Cup or watching the mighty Magpies
100%.
win a grand final? I'm watching the Magpies win the grand final.
Over Bethpage, Ryder Cup.
Yep. I would have been there on Saturday.
Cyprus, but,
I would have seen. I would have seen the Ryder Cup on Saturday, and that would have been a nice day. But we're talking about Collingwood winning flags.
Right.
I'm watching Collingwood win the flag.
Okay. Nick?
Well, unfortunately, my Fremantle Dockers got beaten by point last week, so I won't be at the MCG. But no, I would go if it was at a different golf course, that one that I really wanted to see, I'd probably go to the golf. Bethpage, not really a course that I'm that interested in going and seeing or playing because I hear it's brutal.
Yeah.
So if it was somewhere like Cypress, well then, yeah, I'd probably go to the golf. But at the same time, maybe one of the only chances to get to see Fremantle win the flag. So anyway.
Can I give you a fun fact about Nick O'Hearn and the Fremantle Dockers?
Right.
I only know this because I teed him up on 3AW because they have this thing on Sundays where they interview somebody who is a big-time supporter.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realise this, but Nick O'Hearn, once upon a time, was the number one ticket holder at the Fremantle Football Club.
Wow.
How about that?
Yeah, it was crazy. Unfortunately, I never got to see a game because I was living in the US.
You're the number one ticket holder and didn't see one game?
I didn't see a game live.
That's hilarious.
Actually, Nick,
my parents went to every game and they loved it. So.
Nick, I'm curious on your view on this. So while we're talking the Fremantle Dockers, surely you as a fan can admit this. They have got the worst club song of any of the AFL clubs. It is the worst I've ever heard. You agree?
It's not the worst, but it's not one of the best. I will say.
Okay, well, name a worse one. Name a worse one.
I'm not going there.
No. You cannot say it's not the worst one and not tell us which one is. What's worse than Freo?
I don't even know which. I don't know much about
It sounds to me like he knows it's a shocker.
Well, he's a former number one ticket holder. We've got to let him off the hook.
Yeah, okay. Guys, we're going to go to the turn, and after this, we've got a question from Dean about pace of play.
If you're planning a Gold Coast holiday, we've got an idea for you. Just 23 minutes from Surfers Paradise, you'll find one of Australia's most stunning golf experiences. Links Golf and Wellbeing at Hope Island is a premium 18-hole course designed to challenge and entertain whatever your skill level. We can't guarantee that you'll hit the ball like Scotty Scheffler, but with lush fairways, pristine greens and a link-style layout, you'll have a great time trying. And with a friendly modern clubhouse, including a restaurant and bar, Links Golf and Wellbeing at Hope Island makes you feel just as welcome off the course as you are on. And of course, there's a well-equipped pro shop, putting greens and driving range. So whether you come for the golf, the food or the company, next time you visit the Gold Coast, we'd love you to drop into Links Golf and Wellbeing Hope Island. Visit us at linkshopeisland.com.au.
From Titleist and FootJoy headquarters, this is talkbirdietome. We're here for BMW, luxury and comfort for the 19th hole. Ping will help you play your best. The Golf Clearance Outlet beat everyone's prices. And Betr is the fastest and easiest betting app in Australia. Now, for Titleist, the number one ball in golf, and FootJoy, the number one shoe and glove in golf, is Nick O'Hearn and Mark Allen.
Welcome back. We've got a little bit more feedback to get through. But Nicholas, tell us, you're over in Vietnam. Which courses have you played now?
Yeah, so when we spoke the other day, I had played the Montgomerie course, your favourite over here, Mark.
Yep.
And then we played Barnard Hills and Lane Cove. So Barnard Hills was actually designed by Luke Donald. Very, very hilly golf course. Would not want to walk that. Luckily, we're in golf carts.
Nice.
The caddies here are amazing too. They have some young Vietnamese ladies that go around with all the players, and they know these greens like the back of their hands. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And then Lane Cove was designed by Nick Faldo. Very unusual golf course, sort of about an hour and a half north of Da Nang, and they've got a Swilcombe Bridge, would you believe, on the golf course, out in the middle of a rice paddy field, but there's a Swilcombe Bridge. One of the most bizarre things you'll ever see. So far, so good. Coming up to Hoi Ana Shores today, so looking forward to playing that one.
Okay, some feedback, guys. Speaking of Monty, you were talking about Monty's course a second ago. I've got a couple of Monty comments here.
Oh, nice.
This is in relation to the podcast a while ago and the video a while ago where you were talking about how Monty was a a-hole.
That's right.
Peter, I knew someone who used to play regularly with Monty. He said he was not very nice on the course, but to get him away from the course, he was a completely different person.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Not one
That
bit.
is true.
Oh,
No,
yeah, Nick knows.
In the players' lounge, in the locker room, one of the nicest guys, share a joke and all that sort of thing on the golf course. It was a little different story. He had his way about him.
It's a nice way of saying he was a ratbag.
Oh, look, I'm trying to remember if I ever played with Colin. I'm not sure I did play with him. I might have played with him in a practice round, so he was fine then. But in a tournament, I can't remember. But I'm going to defer to Mark on that one because he's always told that story about it. So.
You didn't miss much. So you've done well not to play with him in a tournament.
Yeah. I know he could hear a butterfly with broken legs land about 100 feet away. That's for sure. So if you did move, at the wrong time, he would give you the stare of death, basically.
And his favourite little trick, let me tell you this, you've gone through your pre-shot, you've had your last waggle, you look up to see where it's about to go, you look back to your ball and then you hear, whoosh, and he's ripped his glove. He's ripped the glove, undone his glove right in the middle of it. No. He did that all day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Jasper has said, I'm Scottish, so I'm biased, but I quite like Monty. He wore his heart on his sleeve, even if it was the heart of a grumpy old curmudgeon.
That's a good way to put it. That's a silver lining right there.
Not entirely untrue, probably, as well.
Yeah, that's probably right.
Now, Nick, you're in Vietnam this week still. You're up there for the week. And this is an email or a message which is not about Vietnam, but it's about Port Moresby. So kind of, similar, well, fair way away, but anyway, it's in the same area.
We get it. Yeah. Tropical.
This is from Justin Aussie. I've played Royal Port Moresby Golf Club many times as an expat in Papua New Guinea. They have men with machetes guarding the course for your safety, and they also had an unusual free drop on the 12th. This is great. If your ball landed too close to a crocodile, you could drop it no closer to the hole, but up to 20 metres from the crocodile. Your caddy would stand guard while you then took the shot. You could also hire a 4-boy to race out in front of you, find and mark the ball for you. In 35 degrees heat, 90% humidity, they earned their money. It was a very unusual place. Goodness
That's
me.
a great local rule. I know.
Wow.
I know down in Anglesey, if you don't know Anglesey Golf Club, Google it. Anglesey, it's kind of spelt the way you say it. They've got more kangaroos sitting on the fairways than any other golf course I've ever seen. And they've got the same sort of local rule because the ball will quite often just roll up and they lay in the sun. And the golf ball will be right on. Now, you can't go and get your golf ball. They don't want you going near it. So it's the same local rule to where it's not a lost ball, but leave your ball alone and you can drop it just away from the kangaroos, not near the hole. So if you've got any other crazy local rules that you've heard of, send them through. Get in touch with our socials, send them through. There's a couple rippers to get us started.
Yeah. Kangaroos are dangerous, but I'd rather deal with a kangaroo than a crocodile.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, those caddies and 4-boys, they should be getting paid some good danger money.
Yeah. Hey, Nick, talking about crocodile alligators in Florida, where you used to live. Some golfers were just not even close to being scared of them. They would you quite often see it. They'll actually just get a club and shoo it away. Like I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, the alligators are pretty skittish in that sense. They don't really have a go at you unless, well, I don't really know. I've never really been close to one, but you sort of see it on the tour every now and then. Like in New Orleans or in that course, and then some of the ones down in Florida, you see like at Bay Hill, a player will go up to with a club and sort of try and stomp and scare it away, and sure enough, it scuttles off into the water. Now, if that was a crocodile, the crocodile will say, well, here's my lunch.
Yeah, that's right.
Very different story. Yeah.
Yeah, alligators are a lot more timid than crocodiles.
Ask Chubbs Peterson.
Chubbs lost an arm, lost a hand over it.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Okay, this is from Dean. Dean has said, guys, what are your views on pace of play, stroke and fine penalties on the LPGA Tour in particular? Recently, the leading group was shooting birdies and eagles. Brooke, Minjee and Nelly were told by the marshal to hurry up.
Well, from my understanding is slow play doesn't even exist on the LPGA Tour because no one gets fined. And they're usually the ones who are in all sorts of trouble for playing very slowly. So I can't help you with the policy on the LPGA Tour or the LET Tour. In fact, if there are fines given out, I wouldn't even know, Nick. When's the last time you heard about a fine given out?
Typically, you don't hear about the fines. What they need to do, and again, I think we've probably spoken about this in length in previous episodes way back, was it just needs to be stroke penalties and just be very cutthroat with it. They need to be it's not so much a group thing. It needs to be more a player thing.
Yep.
So, because rules officials know who's slow and who's not.
That's right.
But if they're timing the whole group, that's where it becomes an issue, where a player who's typically fast, something may happen and all of a sudden they go slightly over the time and then they get blamed. Were you talking about it last week, Mark, when you were playing with someone and they were pointing?
Yeah, Lindsay Stephen was pointing at me like I was a slow one, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas I know you're not a slow player, but that's kind of the way it works out on tour. But the problem is you see those slow players. I mean, Bernard Langer was a prime example. Incredibly slow, but when the rules official came along, he sped up like you wouldn't believe. And you think, well, why don't you just play like that all the time? And when the rules official disappeared, guess what? He'd go back to being slow again, and then we get put back on the clock, and you go, oh my goodness, it's horrible. So, but the officials knew, and they just need to go, right, this player, they need to be more cutthroat, 2-stroke penalty, bang. And I'm telling you what, they'll speed up like you wouldn't believe.
I only ever got one slow play penalty, and that was on the Nike tour. So I got to the last stage of the US tour school. I missed my card, but I got a card on, it was called the Nike tour, which is now the Corn Ferry tour. Anyway, our group was being timed. And believe me, it wasn't the slow one. But I know we're being timed. I'm just about to hit my shot over a bird, mind you, over a bird.
Mm.
The bird took off just before I was about to hit. So I pulled up, right? There's a bird had just popped up. Then I went back through my routine and hit a very important shot. It was across water, right? And I'm on the cut line. Guess what they did? They gave me 2 shots because I pulled up because of that bird moves. So they gave me the 2 shots. But you know what else they did to me? They put me off last for the next 2 tournaments. So I was last off. And I'm telling you, being last off was worse than the 2 shots, I reckon. Being last off on either one side, early morning or the afternoon, that's you get the worst of the greens.
Yeah, it's horrible.
I hated that. I hated that.
Yeah. Typically, the officials, if there's something that disturbs them, then they wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Like, if it's a noise over in the gallery or something that is very distracting, then they go, okay, yeah, that's fair enough. You can restop and start. Yeah. But maybe they just thought, oh, this is a young Aussie pro.
That's right.
We'll teach him.
Yeah, I was the only Australian. Jeff Woodland was there last year. He was a legend over there, Jeff Woodland. Yeah. He used to shoot low scores. And he actually won his card on the PGA Tour. So it was me and Steve Rentoul, who's now a rules official.
Yeah.
So it was just us 2 over there. But I think I was easy pickings for him. Yeah.
I reckon on that note, talk about rules officials. That's probably a good way to end where we started. Yeah. And again, I think we loved Stu, and we miss him already. No doubt his family and doing it tough at the moment. So maybe raise a glass to Stu McPhee sometime this week.
Good on you, Dan. Good on you, Nicholas. Everybody, we'll see you next time.
Cheers, guys.
Talk Birdie to Me with Nick O'Hearn and Mark Allen comes live from Titleist and FootJoy headquarters. And thanks to our fantastic partners. Titleist is the clear #1 ball in golf. FootJoy, the #1 shoe and glove in golf. BMW, luxury and comfort for the 19th hole. Ping, they'll help you play your best. Betr, the fastest and easiest betting app in Australia. And the Golf Clearance Outlet, who beat everyone's prices. Wherever you listen or watch, we'd love you to subscribe and maybe leave a review. Talk Birdie to Me's executive producer is Dan Bradley at Kaizen Media, with sound design by Daryl Misson at loudzebra.com. And now from Titleist and FootJoy headquarters, that's been Talk Birdie to Me.